Hi everyone, Emily Mercado from Loves to Travel the World Travel Agency. I'm here to bring you some more information on how to plan and pick the best kid-friendly all-inclusive vacation. As travel has started to open up, I've been getting a lot of questions about how to plan a family vacation that includes children. So I like all-inclusive vacations, so why not talk about how to go about planning a kid-friendly, all-inclusive vacation. Now, as a little bit of an introduction, going to a kid-friendly, all-inclusive resort is a great family vacation. There's a simple formula. There's an airplane ride, usually, going through customs, getting on a resort shuttle, a welcome drink at the airport, followed by unlimited fun. So, in my opinion, what can be better than activities and relaxation, uh, unlimited, all without having to constantly tally the cost of your family vacation. So, here's your ultimate guide for planning that vacation, whether you're looking for inspiration or practical information. So I kind of, broke it down into 6 months in advance and then, at shorter time increments. We're going to start with 6 months in advance. You want to start the planning process early because every fun and successful kid-friendly family vacation does require a significant amount of planning. Now, you want to consider various options and think about what will and won't work for your particular family. And this is this is where I, as a travel agent, can come in. I can best advise you as to how you can best proceed for your family because let's get real, what works for some might not necessarily work for others. And I can help you talk through a lot of those different options. And, some of the things that you might want to consider is what makes you most happy on a family vacation. What activities do you want to have access to? And even what kind of resort should you stay at? Adequate planning will go a long way in making sure that you won't miss anything that you want to see or do, and it minimizes the risk of things going awry. Uh, and you also did, and it should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. Consider who you want to be a part of your travel party. Friends or another couple, multi-generational group, if you want to bring along grandparents. But anyway, we're going to be talking about, all of these things, and how they relate to children. An additional planning tip is because it is a very significant investment because of the cost of taking your entire family on an all-inclusive vacation. It is a big investment. And this is one of the many reasons why it's very important to use a travel agent like me when booking an extended all-inclusive vacation is because not only can I get you the best deal on your trip, I can also help you make sure that your investment is going in the right place. And I can also help you narrow down your choices based on your preferences, based on your travel preferences, your activity preferences, and I can also help you stay within a reasonable budget. In addition, I can also help you manage all of the fine details that you need that are required throughout your booking, arrival, stay, and then your return home as well. So you also want to consider the implications of traveling internationally. Okay. More often than not, a beachfront, kid-friendly, all-inclusive destination will have you traveling outside of your home country. If you're tuning in from the US, you're most likely going to be going to a place like Mexico. So you will have to leave the country. And you want to consider if the extra steps that you need when traveling internationally are worth it for you and your family. And we're going to get into that in just a moment. Here's what you should know. You need to get passports. If you're leaving the country, getting passports for your family it's a huge extra step that you're not going to need when traveling within your own country, when you're traveling domestically. So it is it is a very big time and money investment, which is why you need to start planning this at least 6 months in advance. Many times also, traveling internationally requires longer flight times and long days of travel, both to your destination and home. Okay. And then going through airport customs is another extra step that is required for all international travel. And of course, long lines are inevitable. And there could be a potential language barrier. I'm fortunate that my family and I speak Spanish, so going to Mexico in terms of language really isn't a problem. But for some other people who don't speak Spanish, and again, I'm picking on Mexico just because it's front of mind for me, but other people who don't speak Spanish and going to Mexico could be a problem. And of course, there's also other safety considerations to prepare for when traveling internationally with children. And of course, differences in local transportation and cuisine, foods, may not be something that your family can easily adjust to. And of course, foreign countries can often be home to other illnesses and diseases that here in the U.S. We don't think about. So when it comes to choosing a resort, you're going to think about five main factors: location. The location, is it close to the airport? Is it close to downtown? Proximity to beaches? What kind of food there are? Or what kind of food there is, on site, if there are any activities, and the overall ambiance of the resort that you're going to be staying at. We're going to tackle location first. As they say in real estate, location, location, location. And the same can be said here, in this case for all-inclusive resorts. It's the most important question to consider before you book. Think about where it is you want to go. And again, we're going to pick on Mexico again. Sorry, Mexico. Even within Mexico, if you, Puerto Vallarta is very different in ambiance and location than, say, Cabo San Lucas. They're just very different. So you really want to consider where it is you want to go. And you're also going to, it's important to look into the weather forecast for the area. If you're looking for something warm, then, you're not going to, say, go to Maine in the winter for an all-inclusive resort. You're going to want to, focus very specifically, say, like in the Caribbean. Okay. Also, you want to think about the distance the resort is from the airport. How far is it to the resort from the airport? Because that will save you time when you arrive. Obviously, you don't want to spend a whole lot of time driving to the airport, and when it's time to go home, you don't want to have to spend 5 hours in a transfer shuttle, if you have an early morning flight. So that's another important consideration. And there are some people that narrow it down so much as that they only want the ocean to be a certain color blue, kind of like in this picture. To me, that's a little bit of an overkill. But it's whatever the client wants. And of course, some of the best family-friendly all-inclusive resorts can be booked through me, along with grabbing some exclusive discounts and perks. As I, can often, and I often do have access to really good deals and perks. So another thing that you want to consider is the beach, proximity to the beach. It's important to know what beach you're looking for and also what beach is going to be available to you so that you aren't surprised when you get there. If you're expecting a beautiful beach and it's really not, then you could run the risk of some pretty major disappointments. Beaches aren't all created equal. And you want to make sure that you read up on reviews about the presence and condition of Resorts Beach. And I can also talk you through that as well, because I do have very often firsthand knowledge about what the resorts beaches look like, or even I can even direct you to other beaches that are in close proximity to where you're staying. Um, and also, this is a good time to consider if the all-inclusive resort you are looking at offers certain water sports that you and your children are interested in. If a particular resort doesn't offer, say, jet skiing, then that might not, and if that's something that you want to do, you might not want to book that particular resort. And even you kind of on the other side, if there aren't any water sports available on site, um, I can help you determine if there are rentals and or water sport excursions available nearby. Another thing you want to consider is activities. Skydiving is an activity that I will not be participating in. Um, while relaxing on the beach is fun, chances are that if you're traveling with kids, you want a variety of daily activities. So, chances are that if you're staying at a kid-friendly resort, there are going to be a variety of activities. Um, Ideally, you want to make sure that there's a wide variety of on-site activities, kids programs especially, and some evening shows so that you can go participate in events together. But if you are looking to go off the resort, you might also consider if excursions are available and or included in your all-inclusive stay. Sometimes excursions are available, but they are at an additional price. So you just want to check with the resort before booking. And of course, food. Food is very important, especially for my family. Obviously, the best feature of a kid-friendly all-inclusive resort is the variety of food, whether it be room service, all-you-can-eat buffets, specialty restaurants. 9 times out of 10, there is something for everyone to enjoy. And make sure, as you're considering various resorts, make sure to look at all of the restaurant offerings available. And don't forget to check the availability of casual quick serve lunch options, like a poolside barbecue or a beachside barbecue, like where they serve hot dogs and hamburgers. And another important thing to look for is what all-inclusive really means. It does feature, this feature does vary from resort to resort. And you want to make sure, if you're making such a large investment, you want to make sure that what you're getting is truly all inclusive. And be sure to check if things like drink packages, room service, and fine dining are included. If not, you can still keep it on your list, but maybe move it down a couple of notches in favor of other resorts that do include these things. And you want to consider the overall ambiance of the resort. It's the last thing to consider when you're choosing an all-inclusive resort. Family-friendly properties have a much different vibe than that of an adults-only one. Which is why especially if you're traveling with children and teenagers, you'd want to consider more family-friendly ones. And you do want to do some research, depending on who you're traveling with. You want to just make sure that you know what each resort specializes in. And again, I can help talk you through all of these considerations. And you want to consider also the focus of whatever resort you're choosing, whether you want a resort that focuses more on relaxation versus a buffet of high energy daily activities, or a mixture of both. My preference would be just a mixture of both, some relaxing activities and some high energy activities, that we can choose from. And you want to also consider the size of the resort. Is it huge? Is it like a mega resort, or is it smaller and more intimate? In terms of size. Again, that's a very important consideration when you're looking at the overall ambiance. And this really could make or break your vacation. So you really do want to spend a good amount of time looking into kind of the overall atmosphere of what that particular resort offers. A couple of additional tips. We're going to be talking about obtaining your passports, booking your flights, arranging your transportation. Because it is important, especially if you're traveling internationally, to get your passports. So, obtaining your passport, critical part of planning your vacation. And you want to start that process. My suggestion, especially now that with COVID, a lot of times the passport offices are going to be backed up. So I would start that process even 8 or 9 months ahead of time, as opposed to just 6. Because there is also an increasingly strong demand for passports. You want to make sure that you have your passport in your hand well before your travel date. Basically, applying early means that you will also not have to pay fees for expedited processing time. All right, which could end up costing you a couple of $100s per passport. If you already have a passport, that's great. I would recommend getting one anyway, even if you're not considering traveling internationally. Just make sure that you review the current entry and exit requirements for your upcoming destination. It's important to note that many countries require U.S. passport holders have a valid passport 6 months beyond your travel date. So like if you're traveling in June of 2021, you want to make sure that your passport is valid through at least the end of 2021. Okay, for current passports, a child passport is valid for only 5 years because a child grows and changes a lot, where an adult passport is valid for 10 years. So make sure that yours aren't expired, and also make sure that your passports will still be valid while you are away, because that could pose a particular problem. And of course, to review current passport requirements and application processes, you do want to visit the U.S. Department of State Bureau of Consular Affairs website. And while you're at your destination, it's very important to know where the nearest American consulate or embassy is, just on the off chance that you lose your passport or it gets stolen. More on that in a minute. And you want to make sure that your flights, that you book good flights. My top tip, especially if you are traveling with children, is that you book a nonstop flight or one with the fewest amount of stops. I personally am a big fan of direct flights, and 99.9% of the time I am absolutely willing to pay more for direct flights. That will allow for me and my family to have more direct access to our final destination. In particular, when you're traveling with children, having a direct flight is a huge stress minimizer when you only have to worry about boarding and deplaning once. And not having a connecting flight means that there aren't any additional airport layouts to learn, and there are fewer chances for your luggage to get lost or misplaced. If flying direct is not an option from your nearest airport, you might want to consider driving to the nearest international airport to catch a direct flight from there. Now, I'm very lucky that I live in the New York City area, and I have access to three international airports: JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. And I am able to choose between those three airports, where I know that a lot of people aren't quite as lucky. Couple of additional planning trips. Bring along a pen. I always have a pen within arm's reach. Always bring along a pen or two just to fill out customs paperwork on the airplane. Filling out that customs paperwork is required for anyone coming in from a foreign country. And you want to fill in the top and bottom half of the immigration forms. Again, it's a required part of clearing customs. And you want to retain the portion of the form that's given back to you and store it in your passport holder. Again, it's required to clear customs upon departure. The next consideration is to arrange your transportation. It involves, a little bit of pre-planning. And again, this is where I can come in and kind of direct you on the best things to do. Selecting the appropriate mode of transportation involves research, preparation, and advanced reservations. And if you reserve in advance rather than booking that at your destination, it's going to save you a lot of time and money. You can use your favorite internet search engine, and you can talk to friends or coworkers who've recently traveled to your destination, because first-hand knowledge and reviews will help you gather as many details as possible. And of course, once you've done your homework, you're gonna identify a number of options like taxis, buses, airport shuttles, limo services, etc. All right, and you can kind of weigh the pros and cons and the reliability of each and decide for yourself what mode of transportation you're willing to use. And then upon booking your reservation, just make sure to clarify a specific time and place to meet. And another piece of advice is to talk to me. Make sure that you're saying, hey, I need an airline transfer. Is this included in the resort fee? And of course, exchanging contact information if there are any flight delays, or if linking up isn't going as planned. Okay, so all of the things that we just talked about should be happening starting about 6 months in advance. And the next things that we're going to be talking about should be happening, say, 1 to 3 months in advance. Research the resort. Okay, a month before your trip, look up your resort on a review site such as TripAdvisor, or talk to your favorite travel agent, me, just to get some more information. And you can also look at something like TripAdvisor. I use TripAdvisor all the time because you can read in-depth reviews, and you can also get recommendations from fellow travelers that I may have missed. You can also find reviews to take into consideration, and I also recommend paying close attention to resort trips that are mentioned. More often than not, we will have already covered all of those tips, but it doesn't hurt to get it from another source. Oftentimes, experienced travelers and travel agents will often mention hidden gems, but they'll also have a very specific restaurant, and customer mentions. If you go to those particular restaurants or experiences, they'll definitely enhance your stay. And you can continue to research the resort and all they have to offer. And by doing so, you aren't going to be missing any incredible amenities that your particular resort has to offer. You also want to prepare the kids as well, because children like knowing what's coming. They like knowing what to expect. And traveling abroad does provide so many unique opportunities and benefits for children. And as a parent, doing research on the country that you'll be visiting will go a long way. And as a family, you can discuss the amazing, awesome opportunity that you have to learn about this particular country and its culture. You can talk about things like the country's language, their economy, local cuisine, and their overall way of life. And you can discuss any differences that they may experience in the country in order to help foster respect and acceptance towards others. Many children do have a fear of the unknown, like I said, and they'll be much more comfortable if they learn about the country beforehand. And also giving them a first-hand perspective of a new country or region will help them change their perspectives. And something that I remember from when I was a child, my parents took me and my brother to Europe. And oftentimes what they did was they gave us information about a particular country, and they would teach us different words and phrases like hello, goodbye, thank you, please, just in the local language. And it actually went a very long way for me to have a more broad understanding of the place where that we were visiting. And those kinds of things really, I think, enhanced our vacation. And of course, purchasing travel essentials. I simply cannot stress enough the importance of obtaining a few basic travel products. And you can screenshot this. It's travelwithaplan.com/favorite travel products and include the dashes. So this is a really good website for you to visit to get some ideas of some travel essentials that you can stock up on as well. So now we're 1 week away from your trip. Begin packing. Okay, I'm I'm an obsessive packer where I'll usually start packing about 2 weeks in advance. But on average, begin packing about a week in advance. Couple things to keep in mind. Obviously, check the weather, if it's going to be hot, cold, rainy, windy, and this will determine the kinds of clothes that you're going to bring. And make a list and stick to it. I am a list maker. My husband and I are planning a cruise, not until 2022, but here's my list. And, I'll add things, as I think of them, but this is the list that I'm going to need, in order to pack, so that I'm making sure that I'm not forgetting anything. I usually recommend, packing at least a week in advance, but some people say at least 3 days, and don't overpack. It is very tempting to take everything so you don't have to worry about it. But more often than not, the resort that you're staying at, like if you forget, say, a toothbrush, they'll have access to toothbrushes for you. And for more tips, here's another great website that you can go to. Screenshot that, write down the website, and there's more tips in terms of packing. I can go on for the next 3 hours, but I don't want that. I don't want this to be the focus of this particular video. And you also want to check out your resort's official website to see what the evening dining dress code is for men, women, and children. And you want to make sure that you're bringing the right clothing, especially if there's an evening dress code, because once you get there, chances are they're not going to be as lenient with that. And you just want to make sure that you're packing clothes that fit in with that evening dress code. If there is a dress code, like I said, always assume that it's going to be enforced, and be sure to pack at least one semi-formal outfit just in case. And then, of course, double and triple check your list to make sure you haven't forgotten anything. Make copies of your passport. I cannot stress this enough. Okay? 1 week or more before your departure, make colored copies of your travel party's passport ID page. And what I mean by that, and I'll show you a copy of what I did. Your passport ID cover page is this. Okay, see, there's my picture and my passport information. Now that is absolutely critical to do that, because I actually have a story about that. When I was traveling with my parents and my grandfather a couple of years ago, we were going to take a cruise in the Mediterranean. We were going in and out of Marseille in France. Long story short, my mother's passport and all of her credit cards and her cell phone were stolen. Fortunately, my father had made a color copy of her passport page, and our cruise was departing in maybe 3 or 4 days. So my father was fortunately able to take my mom to the nearest embassy in Marseille, the nearest the U.S. embassy, and she was able to get an emergency passport. So because my father had a copy of all of that, so it is absolutely critical. Heaven forbid, it that won't happen to you. And being a lifelong travel, I've been traveling for 40 years. I've gone on countless trips, and that's the only time that has ever happened. But still, you do want to be prepared, and you do want to keep the copies of all of that separate in a separate location from the originals, and you want to travel with them in your carry-on luggage, okay, rather than any checked luggage. And like I said, if a passport is lost or stolen during your trip, you're going to need that photocopy in order to generate a police report and start working on getting a replacement. And which is why I had said earlier, to just in case, to know where the nearest U.S. embassy or consulate is, because they're going to be critical in helping you get a replacement. Prepare your home. Okay, this is something that a lot of people don't often think about, is preparing your home. Your vacation should be relaxing and worry-free, and it's always a good idea to prepare your home before you leave on any trip, regardless of the length. You should keep your house looking occupied while you're gone. You stop the mail or asking a trusted neighbor to pick it up while you're away. Okay? Because if there's mail building up in your mailbox, then people are automatically going to know that you're not home because you're not collecting the mail. If you have pets, we have a menagerie of pets here. Consider keeping them at home and hiring a pet sitter, or have a trusted friend or family member come and stay in your home and house sit and feed your pets so that it looks like someone is at home. And of course, take the necessary electrical precautions by making sure that your smoke alarms are working, and also unplug small appliances and all electronic devices. Make sure that your thermostat is set to a safe temperature. Especially if you're traveling in the winter, you want to make sure your heat is set to 55 degrees at minimum, just to prevent the pipes from freezing. And again, plumbing precautions that you might want to take include putting your water heater in vacation mode, and turning off any water valves, like to the dishwasher, washing machine, and all sinks, just so that there's not a flood in your home. Been there, done that, not fun. And you do want to leave your emergency contact information with a neighbor, if you don't have someone house sitting, just so that they can kind of keep an eye on your house and alert you just in case there's anything wrong. Okay, now 3 days in advance, 3 days out, 3 days before you leave. Okay, check the weather. Has the weather changed at all? Knowing what the weather will be will also help determine the clothes that you need to pack, and if you need to make any changes, or if you haven't started packing yet, check the weather, and then check the weather again the day before you leave, so that you can make any last minute changes, additions, or subtractions. And an additional planning tip: it's always a good idea to bring a light jacket or evening cover up when traveling to warmer climates. I always bring like a light sweater that can double both as a casual cover up and a more formal sweater. Because if you've been in the sun all day, once the sun finally sets, you're bound to get chilly. And it does get cool, especially if you're by the ocean. It tends to get a little bit more chilly at night. Something actually that I neglected to do once when I was traveling, just even within the U.S., I forgot to contact my credit card company. We'd gone to Maine, and a lot of my charges at the time were in from the Boston area. So my credit card, because there were unusual credit card activities, my credit card got shut off or my credit card got frozen, because the charges that I was making were all outside of my norm. Okay, you always want to contact your bank and credit card company to know, to let them know when and where you're going to be traveling, so that doesn't happen to you. And just so that they're aware that the charges are valid, like if you're going to Mexico, so that they don't think your card was stolen. Credit card companies, for the most part, do a really good job with fraud protection, for the most part. And the last thing you want to have happen is that you find your credit card has been deactivated, like mine was, because they noticed charges in cities or countries that were out of the norm, that were not normal charges for you. And usually, there's a phone number on the back, and you can initiate an upcoming travel notification. Just to kind of let them know when and where you're going to be traveling, so that they know that those are indeed your charges. Alternatively, a lot of banks allow you to create a notification through their online account system. And you can also inform them which card holders, like if it's say just going to be me, I can put an alert just on my credit card because my husband is an authorized user on one of my cards. But if he's going to be staying home, then they would know that his charges are normal and my charges are because I am in a different place. And you also want to make sure that you're reviewing airport security procedures with your children. Okay, explain the check-in process and stress the importance of having patience while waiting in lines, and that you emphasize that the security checkpoint is an important step in flying, whether you're going domestically or internationally, and that TSA officers are there to help keep everyone safe. If they have specific jobs or things that they're responsible for, remind them, review with them what those jobs are, and explain the process of going through the metal detectors, taking off jackets and shoes, and also putting their belongings onto the moving belt. All right, and remind them again that their electronics and snacks need to be sent through separately, and to throw away any bottled water that they purchased before security. It needs to be thrown away. And then, of course, arriving at your destination. Yay, you've arrived! Woot woot! You've arrived at your destination. Okay. You've prepared, packed, traveled, and you've arrived. Relax, have fun, and marvel in the many benefits you'll be experiencing in traveling together as a family. Move slowly around your surroundings and take in everything. And be on the lookout for unique experiences and make the most of the opportunities to have a truly authentic travel experience. Then final tips. Oh, who wouldn't love to be there right now? Final tips for the ultimate kid-friendly all-inclusive vacation. You always want to make sure that you confirm your accommodations before you leave. It's always a good idea just to avoid problems upon arrival. And you want to book your dinner reservations actually before you leave. I recommend doing that because pre-booking booking your dinner reservations before you leave guarantees that you're going to have a table at whatever restaurant you eat at. And of course, if you're traveling with kids, if you're going to be taking advantage of any kids club, kids club activities, make sure, just confirm the information and hours and ask for a list of daily scheduled activities as well. And you're going to want to tuck a beach bag and any pool essentials just somewhere into your luggage, just so that the children have something with them. And of course, bring a few activities for you and the kids to do in the room, like a pack of cards, some travel-sized games, etc. If you want any downtime in the room. And of course, have plenty of small American bills for tips on hand, even though tips are generally included. And of course, you do want to bring your own over-the-counter medicine, including stomach medicine, because oftentimes foreign pharmacies don't have the same kinds of medicines that we're used to here in the U.S. or in your home country, and that's actually proven to be true. Like if I need I tend to get sunburned very easily, and it's very hard for me to find things like Solarcaine. where it might be a different product. And of course, pack your own sunscreen and bug spray. And for the bug spray, make sure it's in your checked luggage, because if it's in your carry-on, they're going to make you throw it away. They're going to confiscate it in security, at the security. And of course, prepare for a lot of walking within the resort. Bring comfortable shoes. And be willing to be flexible with your children's bedtime. If there are ever any fun evening activities taking place, you don't want the kids missing out on activities or events that they might not participate in otherwise. So I hope this video was informative for you and very helpful. As always, you can talk to me as your travel agent about any questions you have. I'm here at your disposal. My email's here, website, Facebook, Instagram. I'll leave me a review on Yelp, and here's my YouTube channel. If you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, please leave a comment down in the comments section. I welcome comments and feedback, and I'll do my best to respond to them as I can. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to working with you to help plan the travel of your dreams.